Okay, today I'll be making a vegetable dish. The meal will consist of smothered pork chops, cabbage, broccoli, corn, onion, simmered in a pot. So a cabbage broccoli blend. And then we're going to also do homemade onion gravy, and then jasmine rice, followed by cornbread. But in this segment I'm going to be making the cabbage, broccoli, there's yellow corn, onions and bell pepper. That's what I'm going to be doing first, and we'll go ahead and get started. This is going to be about a 6-serving meal, so if you want to jot down the ingredients, feel more than free to do so. We'll go ahead and get started because this meal will take about an hour to cook to prepare, and a little bit longer to actually cook. So we'll go ahead and get started. Okay, now this recipe was actually told to me over the phone by a good friend of mine. She guarantees it's a great dish, so this is a first time try at it. So what we're going to do, we'll start with our cabbage, as the cabbage is going to be the main ingredient in this. And we're going to go with 2 1/4 pounds of cabbage. That's about a half of a large head of cabbage. And as you can see, I just kind of cut it up. You do want to core it also. And then for the broccoli, we're going with 3/4 pound of broccoli florets, and that's you can get that amount off of about 3 broccoli crowns. And then we're going to go with our corn. And for our corn, we have just a 15-ounce can of corn, and that is half drained. We'll leave half the juice on there to kind of help steam. And next we're going to go with our ham steak, and this is optional, but I am going to use it because this is going to be a leftover dish without the pork steaks also, because we're doing fried cabbage later and pork steaks. But this here is going to, like I say, be a main dish also. And this will make about 4 servings this here. 4 to 6 is what I'm estimating, just based on the ingredients. So the ham steak, we're going to go with 5 ounces or about a 1/4 pound of a ham steak if you get one of those. And during this time, you may want to have your a Dutch oven pot preheating, because we're going to drop the butter, which is our next ingredient. We're going to do half a stick of butter, and that's what we're going to saute the vegetables in. Then moving on to the garlic, we're going to use 1½ teaspoons, and this is minced garlic, or about 1½ or two garlic cloves is what that's about equivalent to. Then onions, these are just yellow sweet onions. We're going with 3 ounces or about 5 tablespoons. We have red bell pepper, or you can use green or yellow, whichever you prefer. 2 ounces of that, which is about 4 tablespoons of any type of bell pepper. Oh, my camera tried to get away from me. And then we'll have Roma tomatoes. Those are optional also. And I'm only going to be using 1 ounce or about 2 tablespoons of these here, since I'm not using as much salt. So these will allow a little more of a salt flavor. And then for seasoning, we're just going to use kosher salt and then black pepper. If you want to use seasoning salt or no salt, that's fine too. Just depends on your taste, but I'm just going to go with the basic kosher salt and black pepper. So our pot is preheating right now, that we're going to put the butter in, and we'll go ahead and get the cooking started on this. Okay, now you do want to prepare this in the order that I'm giving you. Basically, it's a layered dish. You're just going to do each of these layers repeatedly until you use up all your ingredients. But first, we're going to get our butter in there. And as I said, this is going to be basically what the veggies cook in. And we'll get that. We're going to go butter, cabbage, bell pepper, broccoli, corn, garlic, and onions. We're going to repeat this until we use up all the ingredients, as I mentioned. And the cabbage will produce its own water, moisture. So add our cabbage in there. Turn it down just a little bit. You want this to cook kind of slow, so we'll turn that down. We got our cabbage there. Okay. Then we're going to add some bell pepper. Put that there. And we're going to do our broccoli. I may should have used a larger pot, but we're going to have to make this one work. Okay. And we're going to go ahead and add some onions. And we'll do a few tomatoes. And then we're going to do our corn here. Pour some juice off of that corn to get down in there. Now we're going to do some seasoning now. And like I said, you can use any kind of salt you want. We're just going to go with a basic salt and pepper. Now we got to get a little bit of garlic in there. Okay. And you'll kind of push that around in there, mix it up just a little bit because we're going to do another layer. Uh-oh, losing some things there. Okay, so we'll go ahead and repeat this. Get our cabbage, and as you know, cabbage will cook down, so I wouldn't too much worry about it if it's overflowing, because the cabbage will cook down. Go there. Do our bell pepper, the rest of those. Okay. We'll go ahead and add our broccoli. And like I say, I should have used a larger pot, but this is a 4-quart pot here actually. Should have used a 6, but like I say, it'll cook down, so I'm not too much worried about it. We'll get our corn on there, and that juice will go down to the bottom and help this steam down some. Okay, and we'll pour the rest of our garlic on there. Okay, now what I'm going to do, so this will cook the way I want it to, I'm going to go ahead and take a quick break here, melt a little more butter in a larger pot, and that way we can stir this dish up good so you can see this as it's cooking. So I'll be back momentarily. Okay, so we are back from our station identification break, and we'll go ahead and add a little bit more salt. And I just, as you can see, I put this in a larger pot, and that way we can mix it up good. And our ham steak we're going to put in there at the very end, and then you just want to kind of turn this. You can see the cabbage is, some of the cabbage is getting translucent. You can see that there. So, like I say, it cooks very slow. You want to do this for about let it simmer on very low for about an hour. And we'll see what it's tasting like. And that's a nice amount of vegetables in there. I really think I'm going to like this. If you don't like corn, well, don't put the corn in there. But I think it'll be just fine. And what we're going to do is go ahead and add our ham steak in there. Stir that around. That'll add moisture too. And I did add about a quarter stick more butter in here, so, but so the dish ends up, you'll end up needing about half stick to 3/4 stick. Okay, so we'll go ahead and leave that like that. Cover it up good for about an hour, and as I said, it's on a very low simmer. And we'll come back and check on it halfway through in about 30 minutes. Oh, almost forgot my other tomatoes. There we go. Come back and check on it in about 30 minutes. And give it a little taste test and see what it's hitting for. See you in a minute. Now what we have here is jasmine rice. Cooking some of that because it is a lot lighter and it's fluffier and it's a lot more tender and tastes better than regular rice. So moving on over to our pot of veggies here. We're going to check these out, and they are doing just great. As you can see, they simmered down and on a low simmer, and then they've cooked down quite a bit. As you can see, the pot is not quite as full. And you're just going to toss those around. It's smelling good. You can smell all the vegetables in there as they're cooking. Add a little bit more salt. A little bit more salt to that. And that should be enough salt for that dish. A little bit more pepper. It's a good thing about tasting when you're cooking. You can kind of know when it's better to know if it needs seasoning while you're cooking it than when it's done. So the flavors don't penetrate. As you can see, our broccoli is still pretty firm. You can't cut that. Want to cook this tender enough to where you can cut the broccoli with this particular spoon here. So again, and we got a little bit of liquor, as they call it, down in there. It's in the juice, as you can see. So we'll go ahead and cover this back up. Like I say, this takes about an hour to cook all the way through. So we'll come back when it's done. Okay, we got our jasmine rice. That's good to go. We got our pot with our veggies in it. It's smelling oh so good. And these are done. Done deal. And you can see our broccoli we can cut up now. Like that. So we'll go ahead and turn this off. Got our vegetables in there, and you can see how much that cooked down. So that's done. Now we just got to make the pork steaks. Got the rice done, some cornbread and some gravy. But we'll be done. Okay, now here we have our pork steaks starting to fry. These are being cooked in olive oil. And this was one pork steak actually. We have two large ones that we're cutting into two pieces. They total about 2.5 pounds. A little over about 38 ounces of meat there. So we're going to say this is approximately about 6 servings of pork steak to go with our rice, our cabbage, broccoli, veggie mix, and then we're going to make a homemade mushroom and onion gravy out of our remaining oil that's in the skillet here. So we'll go ahead and let these cook up and drop our other batch of pork steaks in there so we can go ahead and complete this meal. Okay, here's the pork steaks all done up. We got to add a little water there, and we're going to simmer these for about an hour in the water first. And I'm going to go ahead and make some gravy in the cast iron skillet that we cooked our pork steaks in. So I'm going to go ahead and hook up the remaining oil into making a gravy that we're going to pour over these and finish smothering them for about 30 minutes. So we got another hour and a half to go. Okay, now to make our gravy, we're going to use the remaining oil and fragments of pork steak that are in there. And we're going to add mushrooms and onions. And then I'm using Kentucky Kernel as the flour we fried them in, or you can use a seasoned flour. So first of all, what we're going to do is go ahead and add our onions and mushrooms. And we're just going to kind of saute these until they get fairly tender. And they don't have to be real tender because we're going to simmer them some more anyway. We'll go ahead and cook these bad boys down for just a few minutes is fine. And we'll we'll come back and add our flour and a little bit of water. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm going to just add some flour in there. And this is going to be kind of as a thickening agent. Add a little water in there as needed. You can see it getting a nice brown gravy color. And this is just how you hook up your homemade gravy. And I'm going to make this a lot thicker, so I'm going to add some more flour because we're going to make quite a bit of gravy. You got to smother all those pork steaks, but remember, more flour, the more water you got to add. So keep that in mind. I'm just going to kind of add water in there as I'm doing this. There we go. And this flour, again, is seasoned, so if you're using your own flour, make sure it's well seasoned. We're just going to get that going on. We won't add any more flour to this. If anything, we'll add more water, because that's a bit pasty. We don't want our gravy like that because we got to simmer it, but that's all right though. Just stir that around and get some more water going on. And it'll thin out, as you can see. And you're just going to do this, and you can taste as you go along and taste it. I want it yet even thinner. So it's really a certain amount of water you can add. It's just the thickness that you want your gravy, basically. You can see this is thinning out pretty good. This is how you make your homemade gravy. Then we're going to smother our pork steaks in there. So that's why I didn't make my pork steaks and add them right to this, because I want this to get nice and the right consistency that I want. Because if you got pork steaks already in there and try to do this and it's too gummy or too thick, you got to take them out, and it's just a big mess and a hassle. So there we go. I'm going to make it even. Yet one more thing of water, and then I'm going to be through with this. There we go. And we're steaming our pork steaks, kind of just simmering those in that small amount of water. So that will probably pretty much be absorbed within about an hour. That's about how long you want to simmer your pork steaks. So we have our gravy done, right consistency for gravy. So we'll go ahead and come back when we're going to simmer them pork steaks in here in a minute. Bringing it back to the pork steaks. As you can see, these are simmering. And see if we need any other water. If it doesn't cook off of these or out of the skillet, we can actually add that to our gravy, and that's even more seasoning going on. So these babies is seasoned just right. Got that. Got our gravy over yonder there. We good to go. Keep in mind, if you want your food a little more firmer, you don't have to go through this simmering process. You can just put your gravy right over it, make you a packaged gravy if you want to, and pour it right over it. But I do recommend simmering these because this is a thick cut of meat. And unless you like them a little more firm, we like our stuff just tender. So we're going to simmer this. That's why we're simmering these so long. So depending on what your bite is like, if you like them firm, don't simmer them. Just pour the gravy over them and throw down. But if you want them tender, fork cut tender, simmer these babies about an hour, then another 30 minutes in the gravy, and that's what's up. Okay, now these babies, actually you could make your gravy out of that if you want to, but since I made it out of the grease I fried it in, I'll go ahead and pour this over there, and it'll just make more gravy, which is fine. The more gravy the better as far as I'm concerned, because I can freeze the rest. Okay, and those are the mushrooms and the onions, so we'll go ahead and cover them babies up like so. And then we're going to let these simmer for about another 30 minutes, and then they'll be ready to hook up on a plate. Alright, and here's the finished product. If baby can lift it out of there. Alright, and that's her pork steak.
Yes, I gotta fit all in there, but
Okay, we got the finished product going on, and this is what you call a plate where you can really get your smash on. This is what I'm talking about. Some good down-home cooking. I gets down every now and then. This is the pork steak. As you can see, you can cut it with a fork. That jasmine rice is on here. Nice big hunk of cornbread. That's what's up. Pork steak smothered. Jasmine rice. Cabbage, broccoli, vegetable blend. A nice big hunk of cornbread. And a nice big mug of ice water. Go hit your kitchen and check this out.